All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Jake. I'm with the detection engineering team at Blumira, and I just wanted to go over some topics. The topic of the month here is staying safe on social media in the age of AI. And we've got some main themes that we wanted to go over. Primarily, deepfakes are becoming more realistic. How can everyday users avoid falling for AI generated content? How important is two factor authentication for social media accounts? And are there any advanced options users should consider in 2025? What are the biggest oversharing mistakes people make on social media? And how can they improve their digital hygiene in the age of AI driven threat vectors? So, the first topic we want to go over is deepfakes becoming more realistic and how you can avoid falling for AI generated content. One of those things is there are a couple tells that AI gives away when it makes content. Unfortunately, those tells are becoming less and less identifiable. But while they still exist, we'll go over a few of them so you can get an idea of things you can keep an eye out for when you're looking at AI generated content and just trying to make a distinction if it's AI generated or if it's real. One of the biggest things is some AIs have difficulty with drawing written words. So if you see any like signs in the backgrounds or like any books or like any kind of like banners or anything in an AI generated content, sometimes there'll be like the words will be malformed or the symbol they'll just be nonsensical symbols. They won't be like actual letters or anything, or sometimes the letters will be all like connected in a weird way. So like letters first are the first things I would usually say to keep an eye out for in terms of like figuring out if content is AI generated. Next is keeping an eye on the lines in an image. This is one of my favorite ones is AI image generators. Even the best ones often struggle with what's called logical continuity. And basically what that means is you're looking for like anything like a rope or like cables, charging cables, stuff plugged into outlets, even hair sometimes if it's not falling correctly or if it like goes into one spot and then disappears and then comes up in another spot. That's pretty much all you're trying to do. You're just trying to see if there's cables, wires, or ropes that don't connect to a plausible source, like a charging cable plugged into nothing, or if those cables and wires are floating or clipped at unrealistic angles. So yeah, that's one of those things. And even it's not doesn't even need to be a cable or anything. It could be just like an actual like hard line of like a desk or something like that, where it just doesn't make sense where it's starting, ending. I've also seen people talk about how stairs, you might have like lots of lines on a stairs or even like a railing going downstairs if it just doesn't connect in a way that makes sense or doesn't go the whole way, the whole length of the stairs. So just looking for things that just don't have logical continuity. Another thing that AIs might struggle with is incorrect lighting. So you might have inconsistent lighting between someone's face or background. This is really obvious in actual AI generated videos because it's got to do like movement and stuff like that. So AI might have a hard time tracking movement and keeping the light consistent between all the sources and then like what's in the foreground and background. So that's one of those things that you can keep an eye out for. And lack of realistic shadow casting. So the shadows might flicker or shift unnaturally. So, and these are all might be things you won't realize right away, but if you focus on them, you might notice them, or you might kind of unconsciously notice them out of the corner of your eye in your peripheral vision. If you're focusing on a person, then like a shadow does something weird, you might realize that something's off about the video, and it might just give you kind of a red flag or a weird feeling about the video itself. And that might be something entirely that you should pursue and kind of keep in mind is like, hey, I don't know what exactly is wrong with this video, but it doesn't feel right to me. Another thing you can do is focus on things in the background or anything other than the main subject of an image. That kind of goes to my last point. AI will typically be good about getting things right on the focal point of an image, but might make small mistakes in the background. So, again, this is stuff like it might get the person that you're focusing on completely right, but there could be like signs or cars or something going on in the background that just doesn't make sense. Again, we could go back to the logical continuity. Maybe there's something in the background that just the continuity between it, something's wrong, it's not lining up right. Or, like I said, there could be like traffic signs if somebody's out on the street or something like that, and you see traffic signs that don't make sense. So, yeah, just looking in the background, focusing on things other than the main subject of the video itself. And lastly, for this for just looking at the tells, you want to ask yourself, would this person be saying or doing this? This is just one of those things that's like kind of like you have to question these AI videos, and just remember to use secondary resources. Find another source that confirms they said or did whatever they're saying or doing in the video that you're watching. And if you can't find another source, you should assume it's AI generated until you can prove otherwise. Unfortunately, we're just being bombarded with AI content nowadays. So we always have to have that in our back pocket of just kind of like assuming that something's AI generated if it's like too good to be true, or just like the the news is so crazy that it just almost doesn't make sense. You just kind of have to assume it's AI at this point until you can get another source to prove that it's not. And unfortunately, as AI gets better and better, there's going to be a point where we're not going to be able to tell, and we can't use some of these tips that I just went over. So I just wanted to briefly go over like kind of like the future of what we're looking at, because as time goes on, these AIs are going to get better and better, and we're going to have to just kind of keep that in mind. So when there are no tells, and some AI might even have this, might even be good enough today to pass all these checks. So but going forward, a lot of AIs are also they're just gonna get better and better. So some of the things that you can do if there are no tells, if there's none of those like AI characteristic things in a video, here's some things you can do to protect yourself, even if the AI generated content is so good that it's got no tells. All right. So when there are no tells for AI generated content, so the thing we need to do is consider that AI is going to get to the point where you can't tell, and some content is already there. So what you really need to do is scrutinize the videos, take some time, and really consider what you're reading, what you're seeing, and what the image or the video is trying to tell you, and just kind of use your instincts to figure out if it's something that could be AI generated. And always, like, even if the video is real or not, like if it's AI generated or if it actually is real, we should be exercising these like these, like looking at these videos, we should be remembering to second double check like all of our sources and make sure that the AI generated content is AI generated content, or even if it is real content, you should be double checking the resources and just making sure the person actually said what they did. Or sometimes stuff like that, even with real videos, things are taken out of context. So we should always be trying to get secondary sources, just reading into something. If it interests you, make sure you're reading up on all the topics you can, all the sources you can, to get make sure you get the full picture. But yeah, like I said before, actually, my last section, I said that you kind of always need to keep the "is this AI generated content" question in the back of your head. That's definitely, I mean, that's true nowadays. So you always need to be considering that now. Unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. So that's something we need to keep in the back of our minds. And I also wanted to say that humans are really good at feeling when something is off in a video, a picture, or recording. You might not be able to find the exact reason why something seems off to you, but your brain is likely picking up on a handful of subtle inconsistencies. So if there's, like in all the previous points I said before, if you can't pick out any of those and the video still feels weird in some way, but you can't put your finger on it, you should always, like I said, in your back pocket, think like this could be AI generated. Social media specific things that I wanted to go over. So, social media is designed to be a quick engagement, which can be a boon for AI generated content. Most social media content tries to stick around like 15-second videos or shorter, or maybe even like up to a minute. But either way, it doesn't give you much time to watch the video. It's very quick. And then, same thing for like tweets and all that. You only get about 280 characters. The goal is not to hold the viewer's attention for a long time, but it's a quick glance, react, and move on. So you might not even give your brain enough time to analyze or scrutinize what you're seeing. Social media breeds viral content too. So viral content will typically go viral without the consideration of fact checking, or fact checking will happen after the thing itself goes viral. So that's one of those things just to keep in mind, is social media can be a potential like wildfire. If there's a particularly crazy piece of AI generated content, social media will just kind of scoop that up and do its thing, and everybody will hear and know about it before anybody has a chance to consider like, hey, is this something that actually happened, or is it something that was made up in AI? And then the other thing I wanted to go over, as far as social media specific, one of the things that we all fall into, myself included, is confirmation bias. So AI content that reinforces your belief or any of your beliefs is easily accepted. So yeah, you just got to be careful with what you're watching, and making sure that even if it's something that you wholeheartedly agree with, you're actually still scrutinizing it and thinking like this could be AI generated content. But yeah, keep that in mind as well. Source amnesia is another good one. So source amnesia is when people forget where they saw something but remember the claim of the video. So say you watched a video on social media, you forget that you saw it on social media, and then like a week or months later you're talking about something in particular, and you're just like, well, I can't remember where I saw this or heard this, but here's what I saw or heard. And unfortunately, that's one of those things that AI can really mess us up. Is you could forget that. I mean, maybe even at the time you're like, "Oh, this is AI generated content," but the thing that it was talking about stuck with you, and you forget. You drop the part that where you figured out it was AI generated content, and then yeah, you remember the claim itself, and then you're going on and using that in conversation or in arguments. Another thing to be aware of is synthetic consensus. So that's where we could actually have AI bots generating mass replies that simulate public opinion. And that can happen. I mean, that's social media is supposed to be all about people talking about the things they believe in and getting comments on those things and having that kind of discussion and discourse about all these topics. And unfortunately, AI bots have come in to kind of infiltrate those discussions and kind of pitch their own ideas. And usually, obviously, it's not the AI bot's ideas, but it's the creator of the bot. So if they want someone to feel a particular way about something, they could write an AI bot that just goes out and looks for threads that are related to whatever topic they're trying to influence, and have the AI bot respond in a particular way, either negatively or in a good way. So yeah, be aware for that. And then lastly, I also think some of this is on social media or the AI engines themselves. I'm probably being a little too optimistic here, but AI generated content should carry some kind of watermark so you can always tell this might not be super realistic, but we should consider something at least. I know there's a lot of work that would go into something like that and it wouldn't be foolproof, but we've got to get to the point where we can at least use something to tell if something's AI generated or not. And like that's a difficult problem to solve, but it's a problem we should be thinking about and trying to fix, in my opinion. So the next topic I'm going to go over is how important is two-factor authentication for social media accounts, and are there any advanced options users should consider in 2025? So, unfortunately, regular passwords are just not enough anymore for almost anything. Credentials are often bought, stolen, guessed, or even reused by their owners. So, unfortunately, passwords are just they're not as secure anymore. If you're able to use like 24, 25 plus character passwords, those are a good start. But again, if somebody just steals access to your account, or you happen to leak that password somewhere, it doesn't matter how long it is or how complex it is, people are going to get into it. And that's where multi-factor or 2FA comes into effect here. It's helpful because the primary pieces of MFA are something you know, something you have, or something you are. So something you know would be a password, PIN, passphrase, or an answer to a security question. So that would be like a typical password or anything like that. Something you have, a physical component like a phone, hardware token, smart card, or YubiKey, and something you are. So this would be like a biometric fingerprint, face scan, retina scan, or some kind of voice recognition. And the idea behind 2FA or multi-factor authentication is that it's going to use at least two of these. So it's going to be either something you know and something you are. So it's going to be like a password and a fingerprint scan, or maybe it'll be something you have and something you know, which I think is probably the most common one. That would be like a password and then something like a hardware token or YubiKey. But yeah, just mixing up those pieces of authentication so that you're not relying on just one to get into your account. So even if someone happens to buy your account, buy access to your account, you've got that other factor that they need to be able to log in. And the idea is that if you have a hardware token or something like that, they need access to that hardware token to actually fully log in. And of course, you're going to have that hardware token on your own self. So that's not something that they're going to have access to. Some advanced options to keep in mind. So passkeys are a big thing nowadays, and these are going to be for what's called passwordless authentication. It's not MFA in a traditional sense, but it usually will require multiple steps to activate. So say you unlock the passkey itself with a password or PIN and some kind of other like a YubiKey or something. So usually the passkey itself is protected in a way that's MFA, and then you're required to pass multiple checks in order to use that passkey on the site that you're trying to use it on. So it's not entirely, like I said, it's not MFA in the traditional sense, but it is just as secure and a good option going forward. The nice thing about the nice thing about passkeys in particular is they're phishing resistant. The nice thing about passkeys in particular is they're phishing resistant, and they're also tied to your device, so they can't be reused. And lastly, I did mention YubiKey in the last section as well. I think this deserves another, like a secondary honorable mention because YubiKeys are very secure and something I would highly recommend. And you don't need to be in a business, you don't need to be like at work to use a YubiKey. You can buy YubiKeys yourself and set them up yourself for all your own personal devices. You can even do it for your family, buy a whole family pack of YubiKeys and get everybody set up on YubiKeys. It's not something that's just for corporate work. It could be your own personal life as well. And lastly, the last topic I want to go over here is what are the biggest oversharing mistakes people make on social media and how can they improve their digital hygiene in the age of AI driven threat vectors? So this is a topic that's near and dear to me. I do love some good OSINT, which if you're unsure what that is, anybody in the cybersecurity community typically knows what it is. But if you're unsure, it stands for open source intelligence. And that's typically where if I'm trying to start an attack against somebody or if I'm trying to do something where I'm trying to get into somebody's computer or get into someone's life. That people share a ton of information on social media, whether or not they know it. And to be honest, social media doesn't they don't make it clear the kind of information that they're gathering from you, and they also don't really act or treat any of that data like sensitive data. And I mean this is true for a lot of people or a lot of places is like people asking for your phone number, your birthday, or anything like that. Like we might not consider those things secure pieces of information, but think about all the times you've used your birthday or some other small piece of information to like either confirm who you are or verify who you are. So unfortunately, some of these sites are set up where you can't really use them without giving that data. So it is what it is, but just kind of keep in mind the things that you're sharing. But yeah, so sharing's a big thing with social media. You just have to be wary of the kinds of things that you're sharing out. Either it's an image or you're typing, like you've got some kind of note that you're writing, some kind of tweet that tells people where you are, what you're doing. That kind of information should be kept somewhat secure. The biggest thing, and I know a lot of social media sites love doing this. There's even some apps that are completely dedicated to it, which is sharing your location and checking into a location, especially if you're doing that on a regular basis and people can start to kind of understand what kind of schedule you're making. So if you regularly visit or check into the gym at 5 o'clock every Tuesday, people are going to start to see that. And if it's the same every week, then they can assume that you're going to be there every week at Tuesday on at 5 o'clock, and people can use that to either stalk you or they can know when you're out of your house, they can go rob your house, that kind of stuff. I mean, that's very like jumping off the deep end, and I don't want to scare anybody, but there are reasons like people will look through and kind of get an idea of your schedule through the locations that you're checking in with and where you're sharing. I also wanted to share. I mean, the important thing to go over here is pictures are worth 1,000 words. You might not realize what you captured in image and what those things like what's captured in image and what can be used against you. There's all sorts of things like location information. So if you're outside and you take a picture, someone might be able to see a street sign or a house number or even license plates. I've actually heard of even malicious people trying to do scams. They're trying to sell bikes to people that they had stolen. And the funny thing is the law enforcement was able to link the stolen bikes and actually get these people from the images they were sharing on social media. They were able to see, I think it was like a number of a house, and they were able to locate the house number and track the people down. So of course, law enforcement's probably not going to be after most of the people that I'm talking to here, but conversely, people who shouldn't have that information couldn't get that about you if they happen to see a picture that you took and there's some kind of information in the background that gives them an idea of where you are, where you live, or what places you visit frequently. Some other things to keep in mind, and these are things that I think most people are aware of, is like mail, receipts, boarding passes, any kind of IDs. Even if they're blurry, some partial data can be used for things like phishing or doxing. Doxing is just kind of like revealing information about yourself that shouldn't be online. Even if someone, like, I know a lot of companies have actual like badges that they hang around their neck, and if even if it's blurry, you can't see it. Sometimes attackers can see the image itself and can get an understanding of how the uh, card is actually, like, how it looks, and then they can just kind of fake that and make it look similar to yours. It might not have the same data, but then they can use that card itself to kind of like pass just like a quick cursory glance, like, okay, yep, he's got a card for this business, like, let him in. Or even if they use that card not to like authenticate, because say for example they don't have that part that authenticates them, like on a chip or something like that, if it passes like just a quick visual glance, they might try to tailgate somebody into a building so they can just like flash a quick like badge and just try to like walk in with the other people entering the building. It just kind of gives people another sense of like, oh well, maybe that person belongs here because they've got the badge. Another one, this is a big one that I don't think a lot of people think about, is physical house or car key information. So if you happen to take a picture of your keys, or if a key happens to accidentally get put into a picture, like you accidentally took a picture with the key involved, it's actually been known for some malicious people to make duplicates based off of those pictures, and then they can use other information to try and figure out where it's at. Or maybe you even said what it's to, like, hey, I just got a new car, here's the car key. Maybe they can use that to unlock it. Or I'm so happy with my new house, I just bought a new house, here's the house key. They can use that to potentially make a duplicate and get into the house that way. Another item to go over here is screens showing usernames, login portals, or app interfaces. That could enable targeted attacks. Someone could see what kind of apps you're logging into, uh, what you might use for your day to day business, and try to get into things that way. Another thing here is reflections in mirrors, windows, sunglasses. These can all unintentionally capture people, screens, or other sensitive information. So just be aware of reflections in your image. And unfortunately, even if we can't see them when we take them, people could try to zoom in and enhance the video or enhance the picture so that they can get that information. Another thing is whiteboards, calendars, or sticky notes. I know a lot of times people will place important information on sticky notes. Sometimes that's username and passwords, unfortunately. I'm not here to judge about that right now, but I'm just saying for pictures, just be aware if you're taking a picture near monitors or business equipment that's got anything like that, like sticky notes or a whiteboard filled out behind you full of intellectual property information. Just be aware of what's going on in the background and what else might be in the picture other than just what you're trying to take a picture of. Smart home device placements are also a big thing here. So, doorbell cameras, alarms, or Wi Fi cameras can reveal your home layout or weak points. So, if you happen to take a picture at your front door and someone can see that you've got a doorbell camera, they can know to avoid that. Or if you happen to be playing in your backyard or something with your kids, you take a picture of yourself or selfie of you and your kids or something like that, and you happen to take a picture that captures one of your Wi-Fi cameras in the background, people can use that information to understand like where they've got to like the cameras they have to avoid and where they might be able to get in and not be seen. Things such as key fobs, security badges, building access cards, like I was just saying in the other topic, these can be copied or spoofed. A lot of times they don't need the authentication part; they just need to make you look like you belong, and that can be dangerous enough. And also any photos taken in your workspace. Those might expose secure areas, employee badges, network diagrams, or proprietary gear. Might just overshare on information that's going on in your company, in your business. So be aware of that as well. People often overshare information about their children or family, so just be careful about anything revealing age of your children, and most importantly, like school uniforms, names, or locations. All of this information can be used to help track where your kids are, where they go to school, places they might visit after school or before school, that kind of stuff. So just keep tabs on that. It's very important. One thing that people are usually not aware of is a lot of images also contain what's known as EXIF data. And that data is data about the photo, that's usually about the device that took the photo, and then also like geolocation information. So it'll, if you are an attacker is able to extract the EXIF data, they can typically figure out where the image was taken, what it was taken by, what device specifically, and that's all information that can be used to track like where you're at when you took the picture, what kind of device you have itself, what kind of iPhone. Maybe somebody can use, maybe you have an old iPhone and this EXIF data tells somebody that you have an old iPhone. They can use that information to maybe try a specific vulnerability or an exploit. Or if you have an older Android device, same thing. Maybe someone could try something very specific and targeted for that device. It's very similar to how we try to scan and understand information about systems before we attack them. It's true in like network compromises, like regular computers. It's also true in the mobile world. If someone happens to know what device they're using, they can target that device with specific vulnerabilities. Another item to bring up here on oversharing. So, sharing images with visual cues to your wealth or status. So, say you just bought a new car or a new piece of jewelry. It's awesome to be excited about that stuff, but just be aware that when you share that, you might attract attention that you don't necessarily want. So, just keep that in mind when you're sharing this information. Sometimes people will use that to find a good target for a robbery. Like, I don't want to scare anybody like that, but unfortunately, that it has happened in the past before. Where somebody buys something really expensive, shares it on social media. They don't kind of realize the ramifications of that, and then unfortunately, somebody will go in and steal the car or find a way to steal the jewelry that they just posted about. So, lastly, some tips to reduce oversharing. So, consider what someone might be able to do with the information in the image or post. Unfortunately, a lot of things that I just went over are things that people are not usually thinking of, but just try to get yourself in the frame of mind of like thinking about the information that you're sharing, how someone can use that against you. Like, for example, the house keys and being able to duplicate those, or just being able to find your schedule or craft a schedule about you. So just be conscious about the things that you're sharing and what someone might be able to do with them if they're able to get their hands on them. You should think about blurring or cropping sensitive pieces of information before posting them. So just do a quick glance at the image or picture, video that you're posting, and just try to scrub it of any information that might be able to be used to track you down or find out more information about you. You can disable location tagging on your device. So this is true for pretty much all of our modern phones that can take these images and videos. You can disable location sharing so your phone does not know where the image was taken and does not have any kind of like geolocation tags. Another thing is if you're at an event and you want to post images about the event itself, consider posting the images after you've attended the event. So if you went to like a bar or something, or you went to a party, take the pictures while you're at the party and then post them after you get home. Maybe a couple hours later, maybe a couple days later. But the idea is that you're trying to keep that information away from people so that they don't know where you're at all times. So if you're posting it an hour or two or a couple days later, at least you'll know that nobody knows where your current location is. So that's the whole idea, is like kind of separating people's ability to track you down and the images. And then lastly, treat photos like documents. So review them before sharing. Just make sure that you're doing, like I said, you're doing that quick glance. You're looking at things. You're considering what's in the picture, what's in reflections. Like, I know it's a lot to think about, but as long as you're getting in the right mindset, the right like thinking of like this could be damaging. I think that's the worst part right now is nobody's really it's tough to like put yourself in that frame of mind. You're not usually thinking about that. So I'm not saying you have to get it right every time, but I'm just saying I think the biggest thing to walk away with is just like think about what you're posting nowadays rather than just like taking the thing and then just sending it immediately. So as long as you've got that little bit of like extra consideration before posting, I would consider that a win, honestly. But that's all the tips I've got for this month's social media day. I wanted to make sure that everybody has a good idea of how they can stay safe on social media in the age of AI. And those are just some of the tips that I wanted to go over. So thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.